any qualifications. And yet, in our Ugandan context, if you've not gone to university, then you are a dropout, which is a wrong mentality. So why are parents struggling to sell land, to sell cattle, to part with the little they have, to send a child to university?
What could be your advice? Because you yourself, as your child, your daughter, your son finished whether senior 4, by the way, even senior 4 is important.
Exactly.
And senior 6, you want that child to invest. We call it an investment. Would you say they shouldn't do much more to go an extra mile?
Thank you for that question.
Yes.
I'm not saying that children should not take an extra mile to go for further education.
Especially the parents who sell their property.
Yes, but we should understand that after A level, a child can take any strand of higher education, including tertiary education and vocational education, because all these have a role to play. Why did I talk about this? Firstly, our mindset about what counts as an educated person. It is popular education. It should be a university degree. And yet, tertiary institutions and vocational institutions are also giving skills that are required on the labor market.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We are going for a short break. You will continue to where we are just stopping now for a while, but this has been a good one. And before we go for the commercial break, there is something you wanted to say, please. If I say it, then we will go.
Yes, thank you. So, first of all, we need an appreciation of all the streams of higher education, because each of these streams has a purpose it plays. So we tend to jungle everything together, because university education has its own role, tertiary education has its own role, and vocational education has its own role. That day we thought that it is only university education that is relevant because of popularizing it. It has led to this challenge of producing graduates who are not critical, because, I mean, not everybody, I think, naturally. I would say this, maybe I stand to be corrected, but I don't think university education is supposed to be for everybody. In other areas, in other contexts, in other countries like European countries, majority of students who complete the cycle of education that is equivalent to A level, majority of them go to tertiary and vocational institutions, and university education is for fewer people.
Yes. Thank you for your submission. You led me to recall that some countries deliberately have taken a path of where not only to separate even these kind of levels of institutions. You've ably stated them, tertiary education, and which you included in the vocational and the technical schools. There are some countries, I either recall Malaysia, I either recall also Singapore. By the time you finish with a degree, they don't give you a pass. There's how you call it in the military science education, before someone is fully, whether you call it a graduated, there is something you must first do, and then you say this person now can manage this profession of military science. I'm referring to this with the knowledge you have in the military science. And equally, I could have referred, and by the way I do, the education which is supposed to matter for job creation and labor productivity. It's high time, as we come, as this is a fifth column of government, that something needs to be done. Not to count many degrees that we are having. Someone may be bachelors of arts, social sciences, bachelors of this. What they do, they tend to say, before you are a graduate, you must be a graduate with a skill that you have graduated with. And that extends them to 6 months, that extends them to 3 months, and you say, I'm a graduate of this, but beside here is the certificate of what I will do best. Why do you think that our university, our institutions of higher learning in Uganda, they have not taken that path? Why? Because these are comparative policy and analytical studies that could address the current challenge we are facing. Many graduates, few jobs. The solution we know, as you said it's not all about first gateway the certificate only, plain certificate. There is a need to know what can create for you something to earn a living. Why is there a gap? Is it who should address what? It's where I would like to come make a statement in maybe kind of make one in 2 minutes or one, and also Major will also either give us his view and we'll go for the break.
Thank you. One is that there are several stakeholders, like you've rightly mentioned, in education, and it is good that you've mentioned something to do with the policy. Of course, at the macro level, we have the policy makers who are responsible for making policies. And like you've said, sometimes you can do comparative policy analysis and borrow a leaf from elsewhere. So that one, you leave it to policy makers. Then we have the meso level, the institutional level. Institutions also have their own policies, and they also have their own implementation strategies and so on. So then we have the individual level. So we have three stakeholders.
One second,
the
doctor.
meso and the micro.
Yes. Second, doctor. When you say that we leave it to policymakers, I bring it to your attention, and a good thing, you are the area which a bit are associated, not a bit, are associated with very much. The area, it's especially you who are from the education. You come up with research and you recommend at times the government.
Yeah.
Don't you think, have we, now I'm associating with you, have we excelled in that so that the government either say, like of Uganda say, no, we had this kind of research, but we didn't act?
Thank you you so much. I think that one brings us back to the overall challenges to higher education in Uganda. At the meso level, like I was saying, we have the micro level,
yes, sir.
The macro level, and the meso level, that is the institutional level. At the institutional level, we are the stakeholders, the university professors, the university management, and other stakeholders. So here, if we are talking about the blame game, like I said, each has a role to play.
I agree.
And is each of us doing what we are supposed to be doing? As educationists, as professors, as academicians at universities, are we doing the right thing? I think in this case, for the sake of Uganda, I should admit that perhaps many of us are not doing the right thing. How many researches are we producing to inform policy in a year in our Ugandan universities? I mean, we are doing poorly in as far as research is concerned. So I think it is a call. Let each one of us do what is expected of us. As academicians, we are supposed to do research that is supposed to inform policy. If the recommendations are there, then the government will act. But it is like there's a disconnect between the academia and the policy and the general public, because we are not doing research, which means we don't know the challenges that our communities, that the public is facing. It means we have less interaction with the communities to understand what is going on. We are hooked up in our ivory towers and juggling life, trying to make ends meet, and therefore we are not able to feed the government with policy recommendations that they could act upon. But in case there's a policy, there's a recommendation that is made, then at that level, if everything is done well, then each one of us at that level, macro, meso, and micro, would take responsibility to doing what is right. But a mismatch is blame game for everybody.
Doctor, it is wonderful. The way you have brought it, I cannot add anything, but what I can only, pray or humbly request you to attend to. Very soon, I'll be happy when we come up with that journal, whether paper presentation. We are happy we are with one of an official from the Secretariat of the NRM, which is part of the center where policies also are generated from.
Let me take off from the policy committee.
The policy committee, yes, sir.
I've had the opportunity to work with UN for 8 years.
Yes,
in Geneva, Switzerland, and at the high level. I've been a judge of human rights. And only 9 persons in the whole world, so I've been so lucky. Now, in areas of policy, I wish one day we shall shift from the discretional policy, discretional, in that research are published and it is at the discretion of the government to take it or not.
That is it.
What happens in UN and in other jurisdictions like America is that you hold the office, and remember, public office are held in trust. But it is not that you know everything. What they do, instead of waiting for researches which are published and you take it or not, the officers actually bid for experts on a matter on the table. You advertise, they bid, and they present. Now, once it is presented, it is adopted as a policy. This is different from academic papers presented in workshops, in seminars, and you choose to take it on. For example, an issue is taken in UN, like we want people to do security training. Because we have found out that many of our staffs who go to Afghanistan, Ethiopia, Somalia died. So what do we do? Now, UN makes out bids. These experts from Harvard, can you come for us with a concept that can address this? Once the bid is given to any university professor, normally they have discipline. That presentation is discussed in that particular ministry, and it is honed. This is where we are not using that.
Immediately it is taken. Yes. It is taken on, adopted.
I think giving an example, what we call here that say America has given sanctions against government officials, and people don't take it like something serious. But I can assure you, for the US government to do that, don't even think it is government. They contracted a university professor of Harvard. Tell us if we want to sanction somebody, what do you do? The professor comes up with an elaborate system such that if they sanction a rich, his iPhone will be cut off, his bank accounts will be cut off, his name will be in the international system. You swipe his passport on the migration, the passport will show a lot a which is wanted. You know, a detailed system. Now, do you think it is the government of America which has done it as a policy? No, they simply contracted a professor to write a detail and they adopted. I'm emphasizing this because we still think that let professors write books at the university, let them go to Monument and present papers, then the policy will inform decision. No, we better now sift from office holders who hold office in trust to look for critical. You can't be in office and you know everything. That is how things works, and that's why they are ahead of us. So, do I make a difference from researchers researching and forming policy, or actually researchers being tasked on specific research system adopted and owned by government organs?
Oh, this is quite inspiring, and I think, dear viewers, those who are outside there as policymakers, we shouldn't leave these strong points just to where we are. Something better needs to be done. And maybe since you represent us in a different forum and we also do our part of the work, we believe that these issues will be taken on by the government. And if you meet Mzee whom you sit with, we need to change the way how things have been doing them. Now, I have been I was a principal policy analyst at the Parliament of Uganda, and I ably looked at the cycle of how policy formulation here is, conducted, and it misses that which you talked about. One time, another reference I want to make, when I was completing my PhD, 2012, I, did a dissertation which was about fiscal decentralization and agriculture extension services. I was coming from the background where I had worked with local government, and I was very much concerned on the mismanagement of funds which are allocated to these districts. And because of that, I said, this is my passion. But the story I want to bring in, maybe to emphasize on what you said, is that by that time, 2014, I ably published this book. I took it, a published now document, I took it to the Prime Minister's office, because this is where government is. Yeah, the one who heads government, business. And unfortunately, I didn't get such a kind of welcoming inspiration, say, oh, this can be taken on. I do believe that publication considered some of the gaps we are still even fighting with, which led to introduction of programs which are directly supervised by the center, would have been minimized. As we go for the break, it is something that has been really presented to us seriously, the way how policies here are adopted to solve such challenges of unemployment and to increase job productivity and economic stability. We need to have a shift. Our nature of economic democracy, let me call it economic democracy, need to change. When a yes is a yes, it is a yes. When a long is a long, it's a long. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. We are with our great guests who are delivering all these kind of submissions that are too impactful to our society to be a better society. Thank you.
Smart 24, driving business.
Vimba ne MTN Kabodi Super esimu ya sereza nga bw'ogisasulira mpola mpola kuba amasimu kyusa zi status za WhatsApp laba bu video ku YouTube oba kozesa Google okumanya buli ekiri wansi w'enjuba ku GB bbiri tukuweza buli mwezi okumala emyezi 7 sasulako emitwalo 99 zokka ezisigadde osasula mpola mpola kati okola ki leero genda ku dduuka lya MTN erikuli okumpi weefunire MTN Kabodi Super mangu.
Either tell us what we want to know, or your story ends here. Are you ready to talk?
Oshitegeera kati sanyu ne boyfriend we bagwe bati oluggi nomuze ekiro balwa nkubirako wange mpeme dakika 2.
For stories you can't let go, only on Pearl Magic Prime. This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Chimbuto, the taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Smart 24, driving business.
Because I want money as a university professor, and I'll earn this money because it is going to give me extra income also. I'm not writing a project that responds to a local need. I'm writing a project that responds to the donor so that I get funding. So even if I make recommendations, I'm making recommendations for the donor. I'm not making recommendations that are relevant to the local context. You get it?
Welcome back from the commercial break. I always say that being part of the evolving society requires honest discussion, and in the point we do that very well. And we are continuing with our guests, Dr. Alice Wabule. She is the Dean Faculty of Socio-Economic Sciences at Cavendish University. And also we are again honored to be with you, Major Retired Awik Pora, the Director External Affairs at the NNM Secretariat. And while discussing this, what is impressing me most is that we are carrying on a honest discussion. In this discussion, it is not a win or lose game. It is an analytical discussion to put right what we think can be put right. And if you have some good listeners outside there, and the viewers who can take it up, we believe that we can make a difference. That's why the lady and the gentleman, they are here. The gentlemen, they are here. And really, to have sacrificed all this time, we don't take it for granted. It is also part of advocacy that can take us where we should be. We are continuing with part of the dimension of our discussion at which to the level of the role of the expertise, the role of the researchers. And I referred to this part of the discussion, and I want to recall again the second point of view. By the time 2011, I met a gentleman called Professor Jesse Sekama of Makerere University. And he told me how you can earn money. You know, we are talking about jobs. But unfortunately, we're having a situation even where even those who are educated, they are also crying there is no jobs. And the research which you are talking about itself, it is a job. But the way how we have valued research and those who have done, and remember, every student who finished a degree, these days it's changed. You must be able to have the capacity to do a research report. And yet we need researchers. But now what you were talking about, I don't want to lose your discussion. You said the way how the examination marks are manufactured in a way that there is also cheating. And by the way, what you didn't mention, others are paid. Some lecturers are paid, not all, I'm saying some lecturers, and they end up, say, you add for me out of 45, give me 60, and they are paid. The graduates, those who come out finally, cannot be the very graduates who can do research. Professor Justice Sekama told me of how he was able to earn over 200,000 USA dollars just after the Nigerian government invited him to work on education policy reform document for some years ago. And as you were saying it, retired major, immediately, this was hired an external expatriate. And as he did the paper, it was adopted by the Nigerian government. And also, he told us of the same when he went to Kenya. He was hired. We have many who have that report. And their reports are adopted and taken on the same way how you gave us a reference of how the United Nations do it. And we think it's our time. I don't have the opportunity to take it where it can go. This is the only opportunity I've got. If we took it up and said, no, let us stop spending 3-4 years on a bill and the whole term of office ends at Parliament. These are the central policy makers. And then finally we say, we bring it again. At times it is trashed and put aside. Something needs to be done. You were saying something, please come on, and we continue with our discussion on how we can bridge this gap beside the expertise and again the reality also of those who go to school.
Thank you so much, dear viewers. I was trying to say something concerning research, and maybe let me take it from what you said, that you mentioned that research itself is a job. And you pointed out individuals who have earned huge sums of money out of research. And I would like to say that even at the moment, even in our Ugandan context, research is a job for those who are very, very courteous. If you go visited universities, we have so many secretarial bureaus around or within universities. And some of these secretarial bureaus, what they are doing, they are advertising. If you want to do research, we can do it for you. You can do proposal writing. So people who are courteous, who are cunning, are indeed earning from doing research. But are they doing research? That is another question. They are paid money in disguise for doing research for people who are in school to write their dissertations, to write their master's dissertations, write their undergraduate dissertations. So the issue is the issue of integrity, I think. There is no integrity in our research. While you say that graduates of today are required to write or to do research before graduating, the truth is a good number of them are not doing their researches because we have those bureaus that are doing research for others.
To manufacture marks.
Yeah, to manufacture marks. And yet these bureaus are not also doing research. I wish they were doing research anyway. But they are simply playing around with certain information and selling it.
1 second, and you continue the discussion, because I feel it positive, and it is a serious one. I reveal it to the viewers, parents who are normally, as requested by your children, your sons and daughters, that we are doing research, and they say, Daddy, Mommy, we need this amount of money, and they go to those bureaus, they don't do anything. And what normally happens, one gets a topic somewhere, just begin to do like this, change it around, and finally we call them hired mercenaries. And that this has undermined the education in our institutions of learning. Finally someone graduates and they say did research but never did research. So please, maybe I don't know whether there's a solution for that, but I felt to reveal it in the open for purpose of improving on our integrity in education.
Yeah, I think issues of integrity in education are very, very critical, and we should address them if we are to improve on issues of job creation. Because you are hiring a graduate who is assumed to have done research, but they didn't do research. So how is this graduate, if you employ them as a researcher in your institution, how are they going to do research? They have very good grades, but these grades are not theirs. They don't own them. So integrity becomes a very big point. If it means a policy issue on integrity, it should stand out highly. And again, this goes back to motivation for studying, which I mentioned in the beginning. Yes, just go through the system. When it comes to research, I'll get a mercenary to do for me the research and get out of the system. I think that should be handled at a policy level. What should we do to students in order for them to be able to do their own research other than buying the mercenaries? Can we ban, of course, as people who are using research as employment, and yet they're not doing any good job, can't we come up with a policy of banning these institutions? They are creating employment to cunning people, yes, but are they doing the right thing? Can we have something around this so that there is integrity in education? Even if we try as institutions of learning, as academicians to do it, to control, but you only control, not everybody may be in position to control anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. We'll be coming back to you. And retired Major Awik Pora, there are some concerns I would like to raise as we continue with our discussion. It happened to be with the interest in this topic. I had an in-depth review of the current 5-year development plan, of which I bring it now on our table just in brief. It was found out when you check in the current 5-year development plan, the national development plan, there are jobs which are in this country, some which are required to get those who can do them after acquiring the kind of training and education, specialized training in this country, and other kind of specialized training from abroad. The sectors I was able to identify, I looked at land and urban planning, petroleum and gas, agriculture, and the way how these jobs are identified and designed, they are in the form of specialists in this, specialists in land management, and so forth. You continue to trade in the number of sectors around 19, I have not and asked all. So over 300,000 jobs available with us. That is now the job creation we're talking about. But those who to do those jobs are nowhere to be seen. Number two, I've held 3 discussions here where we agreed with the different experts that are invited and professional persons that sports remains a very good source of employment. But where we are, we don't have the academias for sports. I mean, the Center for Running for Sports, of which has lowered our economic stability since we are instead having most of our young daughters and young sons who are being exported. I use the word exported. They are outsourced and then they are taken out of the country by some hired mercenaries who are taking them and leaving our country in the sports area, which would have contributed the economic stability of this country in terms of production. Because our concern in this discussion is to have the productive population. The 45 million Ugandans is not enough on its state by the UBOS. If we talk about the 45 million Ugandans and around 18 are not employed, we cannot go home and call it a day. But there are already ways which we have identified that can be able to solve this problem. The labor that is productive, to be the agenda of the government and of the citizens, those who are in authority. So while looking at that retired major, and of which I know the commitment of the NRM government, which is the government of Uganda, intends to advocate for socio-economic transformation, productivity of citizens who can meet, who can be able to pay the taxes, that finally the taxes goes to the national revenue, then finally we have economic stability, we don't have inflation. In that kind of thinking, critical thinking, which inspired me this morning, what should be done best to achieve these targets? I've talked of the 5-year development plan, which has many jobs, but we don't have the qualified person to do so, to do the jobs. The university in existence, yes, we appreciate. Sports is an activity where there are jobs. Agriculture and tourism will go on alongside all that, but we are taking long to solve this kind of, to bridge this gap. Retired Major, it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you. You kind of asked, I would frame it into a political reply in touching on government intentions and policies. Of course, as you're aware, we have a party manifesto, and our party manifesto also runs for 5 years. And our party manifesto is extracted from the NDP because we cannot think outside the master plan of the country. We only can play around within our creativity and commitment, because we're surely more committed than other actors. So our critical thinking has to say and creativity. Otherwise, the NDP, which is also extracted from the bigger plan, which is also extracted. So that's what we're thinking. Now, on the issue of 300 jobs that are supposed to be by acquired specialists, I think for a long time we have continued to train in the oil and gas. I know for a fact that the government of Algeria is doing so much because they are very advanced in that area. We have continued to either get scholarship or even pay others. So I think if it is proven by the policymakers that this expertise is not definitely it is the direction we are taking. And Algeria is into this serious into training. So we shall get there.
Yes,
But of course it's a big thing. And I also hope, apart from doing it abroad, these people who go abroad should also come and train others. I'm not, back to education, I'm not so sure the terms of reference from the Manya Mushega
education white paper.
Commission is supposed to be heading a education review.
Currently.
So I'm yet to see whether this review will come by introduction of courses or introduction of subjects to introduce critical thinking or whatever reorganization they will. Or they will come up by saying these courses abroad should be here. So we are yet to see the Mushega review. So possibly it will also fit into this kind of thing. Now I also wanted to comment that parents sell property to pay education. I would think that they are acting in the honest view that they want to, instead of keeping property, they want human development capital. They want to transform this little property to develop the capital in the person, which would be a good thing. And I sympathize with them. I hope those they have transferred the land capital to develop their human capital will again get more land capital when they qualify. But that is a presumption. And connected to this, I want to allay the fears that there are some sentiments which come that, like when we talk of 400 graduates every year, it shouldn't be a threat at all. Because there are many countries which 100% literacy. The richest country in Western Europe, for example, like Liechtenstein, which I'm sure many people have not heard about, is the richest country in Western Europe. 100% of people are almost educated to the extent of graduates. In the farthest country in Finland, nearly everybody is a graduate. And in natural science, did you know that the Finns study nearly only physics, chemistry, and mathematics? That is their glass of water. Now, a country with maximum human capital does not even look at the formal salary job. As long as you develop the human mind, in a proper way, they'll get what to do. And that is why I still have a problem with our nature of education, that you are presumably develop the human capital, but the human capital is seated there waiting for salary. How comes in other jurisdictions where everybody is educated, they are not crying for jobs? So that means our nature of education is still wanting. Now, on the issue of migrant workers, we have of course talked about it like something negative. We are exporting our people. Some people call it slavery. But I think the global thinking is that the train of labor, not every country can have labor. For example, in Europe now, I once sat in a bus in Germany, and the youngest person in that bus was 60 years. So when I went home, I was living with a friend who was a professor. We were experts together in Geneva. He said, "Professor, it seems I boarded the wrong bus." He asked me why. It seems I boarded the bus for the elderly. He said, "But that is the population here. Everybody is old." So the world, having known this trend of population, there are imbalances in job. Now what the world came up with, an international convention called Convention on Migrant Workers, because the world already knew that there's a challenge of imbalance of labor in whichever part of the world. So labor is allowed to migrate. And once labor migrates, the world now offers social protection. The international UN Convention on Migrant Workers is an international legal system where states have ratified to offer protection to the workers there. And the same convention offers protection to the family back home. Ideally, this should have no problem because it's a world phenomenon. It's not a Ugandan isolation. Therefore, of course, like every piece of legislation, this is a global legislation. It has its challenges. But there should be a follow-up built in the convention. So, much as we have our migrant workers abroad, this is not a Uganda, it's a global phenomenon, and it is designed by way of having conventional migrant workers. Like you have convention on the protection of discrimination against women, CEDAW. Like you have convention on the protection of the rights of the child. So, migrant workers is not a negative thing in itself. Migrant workers is a global phenomenon for identifying gaps in imbalance of labor at the global market, and that is why the world moved to protect it. What we need to do is, as a state party to this convention, we should follow its operationalization in checking the obligations of the host workers vis-a-vis how the employees protect them. It is all contained in the convention.
Well said, Council, well said, retired Wikipora, but there are a few concerns I'd like also to look at. One, the category of the workers we send, because the moment it's like if you're a family, the children you can have, whether let's say 4 children, there is family plan that people they have right to produce, can have 10 children, but the kind of children that you raise matters how your family will look like and what you describe who you are in most cases. And now the narrative I bring to us is the concern is of the kind of labor we are exporting, or the migrant workers. The migrant workers who are going to be security officers, who are going to be houseboys and housemaids, as a brand of Uganda. To me, in my opinion, also as an analyst, I do believe, unless maybe if there is a point of either, you know, what's different from my opinion, it's not the best. We do agree, yes, we can go and get jobs to be a migrant worker, no problem. But back home here, our aspiration for you have not yet sold your land to go abroad. Go, which skill do you have that may identify you, dignify you, and make you a better migrant worker who will not go abroad and be abused in all way of human rights abuses. That's the concern one I have.
Can I say this? The migrant worker situation, if you look at it, the states which are very particular about this convention. For example, maybe to align with the quality of the expertise, say Philippines. Philippines is a very strong member under this convention. Why? They export 8 million nurses across the world. Nurses alone. If you went to Europe, America, nearly half of the nurses are from Philippines. So they take a great concern in this convention because they earn a lot, and they also want to follow that their 8 million nurses are taken care of. 2, Mexico. Mexico is a strong member of this convention because Mexico has 10 million workers in the United States alone. In fact, at one time they were boasting that, why is America disturbing us? If we withdrew 10 million workers from the United States, we doubt that they can stand. So, Mexico with 10 million migrant workers in USA, Philippines with 8 million nurses across the world. They are very, very particular in the convention on migrant workers. Now, how you train your quality to go there is entirely yours. And then also on the expectations of the potential workers. If you say, I am of low quality, I should stay here, but I stay, do what I have nothing to do, I will learn from them. So it's not a debate between the community or the state vis-a-vis the potential worker.
That's the honest discussion. Therefore, today we are discussing very well more than even how we've been discussing, and I am appreciating. I believe on behalf of the viewers, they are also very happy. The role of the community, the role of the state, and this is point on. What do you want to come out as your product? Equally, if you are a parent there, you must be determined to know this. I was having a discussion with my daughter, and I was looking at her marks, and I say, after all this, what are you looking at to be? You must be able to begin to shape, and this conversation, Major Paul, my supplement is there should be also the involvement of the very children we are talking about, our sons and daughters, so that they can have a focus and a direction of career. Moving forward, I would like to bring you on board once again, Dr. Alice Wabule. universities, they have had institutions of learning, all of them together. They have had discussions from time to time, maybe in regard to curriculum design. And Council is saying that we need to also look at what is the role of the experts. You graduate, you say you count, I know you as a dean, I don't know when you're having another graduation, you read the list, these are the list.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, these are the list of graduates. In a real sense, if we are to come out from this phenomenon of being underdeveloped, it's my prayer that even the universities, institutions of higher learning, colleges, technical institutions should be keen on their very responsibility, whether they pass it as a reform and they say this is what we have taken, to know that these are how many? There are, like, let's say 500 graduates under the Faculty of Social Economic Science. This one is going to be fitting into this. This one is supposed to be fitting into this. We don't stop at the ceremony of the gowns. How are we going to achieve that?
Thank you.
You have 2 minutes, you'll continue from there.
First of all, maybe talk about the role of the university. Like a funder which has said, the university is there to empower a person who has gone through, or an education system is there to empower a person who has gone through this education system with the skills, with the knowledge, so that they can live in the world. The university does not train someone to get a job. You're trained, you're given knowledge and skills that can enable you to fit in the world, which means you can either join formal employment, you can be self-employed, and so on and so forth. So if universities were responsible to train people specifically for getting jobs, then we would stop when the jobs end.
1 second, as you continue. That narrative is very right.
Yeah.
But the reality of it, as you said today, came to inform the public, is missing. The way how your lecturers whom you are supervising, and also the courses which are designed to bring in this kind of the very teaching, the very, transformational dealing of mindset, and also the critical thinking to know. I used to do it when I was in a lecture room. I could say, please don't think that you are going to have a bachelor's of arts in public administration, then you begin to color envelopes in the streets of Kampala, you are getting a job. I say, think outside the box. What do you think enough is being done? In one statement, we go for it.
I was coming to that. I was saying, okay, that is it. Having understood this, the next step is, as universities, we have a responsibility because people count on us. They have hope that when the students or their children pass through our hands, they'll be able to get jobs. Therefore, we design a curriculum, and we are supposed to review curriculum after every 5 years. And when we are reviewing curriculum, we take into account the needs of the labor market. We are supposed to do research. What happens is there are certain jobs that are specific, that need specialized knowledge, like the 300 jobs that we've mentioned that are needed in the oil and gas industry, they are needed in the tourism industry, and so on. Yeah, there are certain, when you're designing that curriculum, we have to be conscious that there are certain jobs that keep coming with the changes in the global economic trends. Like right now with oil and gas in Uganda, we have to train our graduates in that area. That means there's a need for training in that area, and therefore we design a curriculum, we design a program that is going to cater to respond to the need of the labor market. But there are those courses that remain. People have to study international relations, whether there are jobs or not. People have to study history, whether there are jobs or not, because you're giving knowledge.
But so, the history, it should not stop at the bachelor's of history.
Exactly.
But it should be beyond.
Then I also want to talk about pedagogy. When you're designing the curriculum, you also design a pedagogy. So we are trying to come up with a pedagogy that is more of hands-on, that is
I'm going to give you much more time about that, the pedagogy, that philosophy, and you tell our viewers how how it can be realized and to bridge this gap, and how the need for change, of course. Stay tuned with Smart 24 TV. In the next session, we'll be dealing with labor productivity, economic stability related with education, whether we are having a way forward that can help our country to be of a stable economy. Thank you for staying with us.
Smart 24, driving business.
Vimba ne MTN Kabode Super esimu ya sereza nga bw'ogisasulira mpola mpola kuba amasimu kyusa zi status za WhatsApp laba bu video ku YouTube oba kozesa Google okumanya buli ekiri wansi w'enjuba ku GB 2 ze tukuweza buli mwezi okumala emyezi 7 sasulako emitwalo 99 zokka ezisigadde osasule mpola mpola kati okola ki leero genda ku dduuka lya MTN erikuli okumpi weefunire MTN Kabode Super mangu mangu.
Music is fuel that fires up our souls. Today, African music has a dominant place on the world map. This massive music movement creating waves across the globe.
I have seen the evolution and the growth of this industry.
But every movement starts with a story. And the best place to start any story is at the very beginning.
There's a primordial energy that can only have come from Africa.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
Chinayu chinyumira. Whether it is Katogo, Chikomando, Rolex Majasa to Nyanya Mbisi. Man, wherever I am, I enjoy Chinayu with your TV channels on my phone.
Nyumira omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya TV channels ku simu yo olwo nyumira ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data. TV channels.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest. Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from the commercial break. We are blessed this weekend to continue with our discussion that matter for a transforming society. And in this, we are still looking at the role of institutions of high learning institutions in job creation, labor productivity, and economic stability. We made some contributions, especially our dear guests, and we are continuing with them, those who just joined us, with Dr. Alice Wabule, Dean Faculty of Social Economic Science, Cavendish University, retired Major Awik Paul, Director, External Affairs, NRM, and he is also a counsel. We appreciate the work you do, sir. While moving forward, a number of issues are being raised. Our prayer for this generation, the next generation, and the policy makers outside there is to use this knowledge to transform our society. And we were looking at now the labor productivity compared to the education system we have. And when we talk about education, once again, I emphasize it's not only formal education, there is also informal education. And we were still on that point, referring to the kind of education delivered, whether it correlates with job creation and labor productivity and economic stability. At a certain point, while I was in service, civil service, 2007, I attended a training at Changwanzi Institute, NALI, National Institute, Leadership Institute. And for a whole week, a whole month rather, we're dealing with a course which was relating to community national economic transformation. We dealt with a number of studies that also partly dealt with geopolitics and so forth. Why am I bringing this? At times there is a misconception of thinking that to only have the degree, the popular education we talked about, is the best way to go. And due to that, there's a point which I was not contending against, where you stated, Doctor, where you stated that it should not be a die and a do game for every parent to make sure that you sell all you have to take your child to university. Your child, your son, your daughter can excel even without going to university. Do technical skill, undertake technical skill qualifications, and which will end up paying higher than either your child who is having a bachelor's of arts. I'm not against that qualification, but we are coming into the reality of the job market. Because of recent, when the vice chancellors were proposing some education reforms, one was dealing with the issue of marketing. That was Professor Mamadou Mpa Zanigo, the vice chancellor of Kampala International University. He talked about job marketing, because job creation cannot go away with these tenets they talked about. They talked about skilling. They talked about, that was by the vice chancellor of Makerere University, the deputy vice chancellor, Makerere University, talked about specialization, talked about marketing, the job marketing. As you go to the field, which market have you identified? Because you are going to provide the service of your education. And the mindset change was also talked about by Dr. Muganga, the Vice Chancellor, Victoria University. Efficiency of the education was talked about by Professor Eliab, the one of Ndeji, the Vice Chancellor of Ndeji University, and then programming. Having said that, I am also in agreement with these tenets that they could help us not only for job creation, but labor productivity and economic stability. The economic stability we are talking about, after saying all this, when we have, I said it and I won't say it again, I believe you are in agreement or you have some different opinion. A population that is not productive, it will go into the oblivion of only complaining that we are not being helped. Everyone will be complaining. A population that's not productive. And this should be from the younger age, even not looking at before one reaches to higher institution of learning. I'm worried, Major Awik Paul. I say this because I do know that you at least associate with our policymakers very much, where we are having this young population, the young children, they are now over 3,000 in the streets of Kampala, not anywhere, on all these points. And these are the children. Education starts from the younger age, childhood up to adulthood. You don't expect someone who is having a mindset now at age of 3 years, is just taught to beg, doesn't have an option, is not being helped by the parent, and also us, whether religious institutions, we are looking at this. You are seeing this scenario. Mm-hmm. And we now look at how are we going, that's an indicator of instability. It's an economic instability, of which needs to be addressed at a wider perspective. Those who have either advanced to where we are, and those also the young ones, because I don't see these young children as Kamajong. I see these children as Ugandans. So how are we going to match this gap, considering the education that will be transformational to bring economic stability? It's a pleasure to welcome you again and give us a submission, and also my older brother, retired major, will also be giving us his passionate submission.
Thank you so much. I think I'll talk about this in terms of education being both horizontal and vertical. I'm glad that you talked about the issue of the community and maybe parents, when you mention a Karamojong child who is taught from age of 3 to beg. I mean, that is the informal education that the parent is passing on to the child. So the child will grow up knowing that begging, being on the street is the right thing. What we are doing right now, I think, in our Ugandan context is we have left out the other horizontal aspect of education, the informal aspect of education. And we try to institutionalize all education. We talk about education in terms of going to school. And this is why when someone does not go to school and acquire a qualification at the end of the day, they will say we dropped out of school or we didn't go to school. Even a parent will say, I failed to send my child to school. But are we taking the responsibility of even giving this informal education? Because education is both vertical and horizontal. The vertical one is for skills development that we may acquire at school and other aspects. But the horizontal one, we should grow in both, where we acquire formal skills, skills of passion, skills of integrity, skills of lifelong learning, of wanting to learn and acquire skills, skills of interpersonal communication. Even if schools can teach it, but such skills are taught from childhood. Interpersonal communication, courtesy, integrity, care, being passionate about what you're doing. Even if we design the curriculum, I was talking about a curriculum. Of course, right now, as we design curriculum, there is no university there is no institution, higher education institution, which does not teach critical skills, which does not teach critical thinking. But certain things, certain skills must be taught from or by the parents. We need to respect the home as an informal school that is supposed to teach certain values into the children.
Doctor, you brought a sensitive area, and of which sometimes we, the media, and generally whether the government, all of us, we have not given it attention. Home, and when you say home, family, the values, they will have a serious deficit in what you talked about, the values in families. Some families are no longer together. Some families are of that serious gap, where we are talking about the integrity cannot understand you. And in a population, I was in a committee at Parliament, just doing my analytical review of what is transpiring in one of the committees handling the issues of disaster in northern Uganda. And one of the issues was that besides the famine, this drought, there are parents, a good proportion of them, who are dealing with, who are engaging in alcoholism. Alcoholism is one of the key causes of what those people are facing before we talk about climate change. So, in such family where you are groomed And there are nothing like values where parents are in that kind of category. And if you want statistics, we have a good number. How can we bridge this gap? Because this education we are talking about, the holistic one, the horizontal one, it needs to reach to the common person, not necessarily to first get a certificate. Kindly, you can make a submission and welcome our dear guest outside.
Thank you so much. This is why at some point I mentioned that for us to have holistic education, all stakeholders have to take a role. Where we have parents that are leaving all the responsibility of schooling to the institution of a school, I think the parents are failing on their part. And at the end of the day, even if the schools taught children the skills, maybe the hard skills that are required on the labor market.
The skills, the values.
Yes, some of them. But then the education institutions may not, because we have a specific life, a specific curriculum that we are supposed to follow. Even if we try to teach these skills, we need support of the parents, because labor productivity is an outcome of good mindset, it is an outcome of being positive in your life, it is an outcome of hard work and determination, and some of these things should be taught by the parents at home. We have a scenario where these days a parent is even taking a child to kindergarten in a boarding school. And you're leaving everything for the teacher. This teacher is going to teach good attitude. This teacher is going to teach passion. This teacher is going to teach productivity. This teacher is going to teach mindset. We try, but we are overwhelming. We are overwhelming the institution of a school. Let the formal school also play its role, so that there's a concerted effort in molding a productive product for the labor market.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the submission. We'll be coming back to you to ask and I will just direct the question, be specific. I will know how Cavendish University has done it best to bridge this gap as an institution, and I believe you have what to tell us.
At this moment.
Thank you later. Please, retired Major, I'm coming back to you. The question of economic stability, me as an analyst, a public policy analyst, expert who got this opportunity to do serve through this forum, we are still mindful and we are concerned on how this may be for a short while, the kind of economic instability we are facing, because the balance of resource distribution among the population, and also looking at the available labor, because wealth is created by the population and cannot be created by foreigners. Wealth creation, I'm changing the kind of verbatim I'm bringing is quite different. Wealth creation is created by the population, and that is the labor we are talking about. When we talk about economic stability, it means the kind of population we have and the programs which the government has given us, and the population, the response by the population. Because we have the population, that's theory very well, where there's the population, and this economic theory, we are also having the government, and then the government for policies, the population, it's supposed to be the population that is working. And the kind of education, leaving aside the role of institutions of high learning, in our country, Uganda, those who are making wealth, those who are in economic productivity, when we are having a population that is producing much more, then we cannot have instability, because we are exporting, we are having technology and so forth. How can we emerge the two, the labor productivity of Uganda, and in the new various dimension, even when I'm talking about the East African community, of which now we are saying that there will be free movement of labor. But the free movement of labor, it should be a productive labor. We're not going to send street children to Zaire. We're supposed to send their strong minded business young men and women who are going to make money, and then they bring back here money. Let's see how you correlate the two and how to move forward.
Well, the labor productivity, really these are back and forth issues that we have been handling. I still believe that the labor productivity is really embedded into the education system, both formal and informal.
Yes, sir.
You can only be productive if you didn't go to school in as much as your mother and father has guided you in your growing up. Now, for skills that are for training, we have said it. Now, I have said that I still find our education system wanting, because I believe even in the informal education, the education should just be a tool of analysis to open up your mind. It should be like a torch where you go to lead you way. Now, Dr. here says that critical thinking is taught at universities. I don't know whether it is taught like today we're in the subject of critical thinking, or whether I didn't see it in faculty of law that there's a subject called critical thinking. For example, doctor, if we have this critical thinking course, I've already given the example of graduates rushing to witch doctors. Can any average Ugandan graduate answer a question like, water is life? What does it mean? Doctor, when they say water is life, what is that? Can any average graduate answer it?
You're supposed to answer.
Water is life.
Meaning without water you cannot live.
That is a very average thinking, very critical thinking. That is, in other words, you're saying if you don't drink water, life will go out of you. That is not. Water is life in critical thinking means there is matter. Matter is neither created nor destroyed. If you get a given amount of oxygen, which is matter, plus a given amount of hydrogen, H2O, you get water. Okay? Now when you get water, it is the beginning of life. Life did not begin until water started. An amount of water, H2 plus amount of oxygen, 2, forms water. Remember, matter is neither destroyed nor created. Now, this is the critical thinking. You got every graduate, water is life, water is life, water is life, I have a degree, water is life, I have a degree. Really? We must go down to drawing board and teach our students critical thinking. You have students who cannot simply explain a simple knowledge of water is life. You don't run into witch doctors. And what critical, so me I'm saying, there must be some deliberate literature introduced. In Catholic seminaries, I am told they teach dialectical materialism and historical materialism. Then as a priest, you are living into your idealism. But they want to expose them to this so that they know that critical thinking to me would make a difference. I'm going to visit Mushega. I grew up in Mushega's own as a NRA Kadogo. I'll visit it. So, in these times of job, you are saying labor productivity creation, and you're not going to have a labor productive person. If research, research is simply information gathering. If even in this office as a policy maker, I cannot even think to say, as a permanent secretary, we're going to come up with this bill. So I think in my research at least should tell me, why don't I give this contract to this professor? That is itself research. The ability to identify where there's a resource person is itself research. Now if you have this person who cannot even do the basic elementary research of identification of a resource person who can come in. So I am not sure about this critical thinking in universities. When we continue to have university graduates who cannot explain a single connotation of water is life, the graduate says, if you don't drink water, you will die. Really? Is that water is life? Water is life. You start from the point of departure. Matter is neither created nor destroyed. What is matter? Oxygen is matter. You never manufacture oxygen. It is there. And hydrogen. Combine them, they form water. From that water, life started.
Councillor, do you know that chemistry is too much?
It's just the kind of exposure of education that you have. So, the education system, of course, now we have seen how we take to kindergarten. I've commented mothers and parents. Did you know that in Europe, in Germany particularly, nursery school, you don't only train a child, you train a mother also. In other words, in the class, the mothers are carrying their baby and the teachers are teaching. That is how far they have gone to perfect their system. We may reach there in future. But in a nursery school, there are two people. There's the student, the pupil learner, and the mother carrying the child. And when it is break time, they go out, the parents and the children. They say, come back to the class. They come back lunchtime, they go home. So, but that's how far they have gone. So to me, the labor productivity, including the strict designing of science subject, like engineering, to say that we're not going only to learn theories of dynamics or theory of whatever engine, they can refine and do it much better and go into production. But still I'm thinking that even why they have not been going there, because they have lacked critical thinking. And if they teach it in university, which I didn't see in faculty of law, and I think at my time I had the best professors, the Professor Duke of this world, the Dr. Aloko Anyango, they showed everybody. I did not see critical thinking. And that is why even we still had lawyers who would throw up their hands in the air and say, it is the law. It is the law. They cannot even think the source of law. So the labor productivity, we need it. That we need the labor productivity, especially as we integrate. As we go to East Africa and we go to continental, we need quality labor.
Yes, right.
Even if we are to benefit from this convention on migrant workers, why Filipino benefits? Because Filipinos have one of the best trained nurses. And the best trained nurse in America, if he's a Filipino, he earns huge sum of money. In fact, Filipino, the GDP, the income to the country on this 8 million nurses, it's so amazing. Just by training good nurses. And if you don't train good nurses, definitely the job market there won't accept them. Just like India, for example, India is well known for training doctors. Did you know that a doctor from India has express entry in the USA? And for USA to accept your doctors expressly, they have done quality assurance. So we don't need to overemphasize the ability or the quality of labor. We need to improve on the quality of labor, even if it means the Mushega team checking on that. But it starts from critical thinking.
Wow, I'm just being educated more. You know, I've been with learning. Personally, I'm learning a lot and inspired. And the inspiration is not stopped at this. If you are a well-intentioned patriotic Ugandan like me, and my fellow guests here, our dear guests here, something needs to be done. And I believe the moment we do no longer slow down, we be faster. I'm a person, when I get a right idea and I'm convinced with it, you can't easily stop me. And those outside there, this is something that we need to take care of, because good ideas can be shared, but action without words, it does not make anything. And I believe, and I make an appeal, that on the side of where we need the involvement of the bigger power, that is the state, which controls policies, which does all this, critical thinking, innovation is very important. We can make it in the next 5 years. It's not far, and we agree as a country, because this is the dialogue we are generating through this discussion. And we say, Uganda, we are going to target around 5 countries, and these 5 countries which are in need of this kind of labor, and also the labor we need here, instead of the government spending money anyhow, at times we say parish development model is not a bad one. It's part of helping, the community be productive, but with this tactical and strategic being briefed by the policy and being briefed by the research, and we say we have our 500 billion is going to train this number of workers, and we are going to bond them. After they go the other country, they will be paying a portion of this, even will recover back. I'm proposing a policy, Mr. Majorwick, that can work. The 500 million, instead of leaving it here in a capital development bank, right? Development bank. That's how it is called. You say this 500 million we have identified all over the country. These kind of nurses who are at senior 4, not even waiting for senior 6, others from senior 6, who are in the science area, who are in the IT area, we train them, it's our loan, we send them there, when we sign an agreement, instead of the other who are exporting the migrant laborers who are unskilled, and they end up being misused. I think something can be done better than that. Would you give us your opinion as we go for our short break?
Thank you. So when Major Awich was talking about critical thinking and Philippines and India producing the best nurses and doctors, I was having a question. I was questioning myself, why is it that Philippines or India are producing best nurses and doctors that are demanded widely in the labor market?
I also ask you, is it possible to be done from here? Because their demolition is good.
Yes, and the question is, why is it that Uganda is failing to produce nurses and doctors that can meet the same quality as that of India or Philippines? What has gone wrong that we are not able to produce such doctors or nurses? And yet we also have education institutions. We also have students who are entering these institutions, and when they enter, they find the people, instructors who give them the knowledge, and at the end of the day, 3 years or 4 years, they get out of the institutions.
A good question.
And when they get out of the institutions, again we say they don't have the what? They don't have the skills that can meet the labor market, and therefore even when they are graduates, sometimes they cannot be given jobs like on the international market. Thank God that we have migration and people are moving. But why is it that when our graduates leave Uganda, for instance, to the Middle East or to Europe or to the US, someone has left Uganda with a bachelor's in commerce or something, but when they reach there, they don't meet the skill, and therefore they end up as a house girl or as a security guard. Why can't they get jobs that befit their qualifications?
You have the answer.
I think that the challenge comes with
question.
Like I said, it is a vicious circle. We are all responsible. We should not blame one side. Like we said, we have the policy makers, we have the government, we have the institutions, and then we have the individuals. So if we are to make any policy, it has to touch on all this, because even if you say that this money is set aside to train individuals, still, if we are to train, then we should produce this product that has the right skill, that has the right attitude, that has the right communication knowledge, that is innovative. So how do we reach a level that we don't put money to waste? Because having money, sponsoring someone at university is one thing, and producing a graduate that is productive is another thing.
Yes.
So besides putting aside money to train people, I think we need to go to another level of ensuring that we put this money to use so that a graduate of Makerere, a graduate of Cavendish can compete favorably with a graduate of Harvard or with a graduate of a similar university.
I also want to answer the same question.
Would you come? Yes. Let's go for the commercial break. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. And retired Major said he has a more input into it. We want to make Uganda a better country with good economic stability. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. A good weekend with us.
Smart 24, driving business.
Vimba ne MTN Kabodi Super esimu ya sereza nga bw'ogisasulira mpola mpola kuba amasimu kyusa zi status za WhatsApp laba bu video ku YouTube oba kozesa Google okumanya buli ekiri wansi w'enjuba ku GB bbiri tukuweza buli mwezi okumala emyezi 7 sasulako emitwalo 99 zokka ezisigadde osasula mpola mpola kati okola ki leero genda ku dduuka lya MTN erikuli okumpi weefunire MTN Kabodi Super mangu.
Either tell us what we want to know, or your story ends here. Are you ready to talk?
Oshitegeera kati sanyu ne boyfriend we bagwe bati oluggi nga muzeyi kirungi waliwo ankubirako wange mpeme dakika 2.
For stories you can't let go, only on Pearl Magic Prime. This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292 #. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Futinbuto, the taste of Uganda in a new international park.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from the commercial break. We are just coming with our last session, and I appreciate our dear guests who have ably gone through with us in this discussion, generously sharing knowledge and information. And they do it with the spirit of patriotism. I have to give an applaud over that. May God bless you. And thank you, sir. Moving forward, we were looking at a number of final these issues. And Major wanted to say something. Before you say it, there is an identified gap that we are lacking in this discourse of achieving economic stability. The awareness of the community to a large extent is minimal. We are privileged to be on this TV station and our viewers are able to view us. But the population, to get this information, the knowledge we are sharing, issue of expertise, issue of mindset change, which to me in our day-to-day and program, which relates with the program which the government was introducing of Mandisa Change, I don't know whether they have come up with community educators. We used to have community educators and at times who are employed at a voluntary level. There was a time also when there was a drive to have, community cadres who could say that by that time there was kind of insecurity and they say every village could have these cadres. They gather people and share this information. The president the other day was able to talk about what is bringing economic stability. By the end of the day, how many people access this information? There are few, and this one is not political in nature, but a responsiveness of every citizen and generally the state and the stakeholders. As you will respond to what you want to talk about, this is another area which we believe information sharing is limited and which could have added more value of attaining what we are calling economic stability, identifying the opportunities, the challenges, and being able to bridge this gap. So that someone, if was sent away from this seat as a border person, will be able to know that no, by maybe a new postal form that I go back to view does not mean that the government does not want me in this country. A lot is needed, and all that is bringing this commotion and trouble is lack of awareness, which is not sugar-coated with the politics. What is your take? As either way, you begin with the last what you wanted to say or what you want. Yes, please.
You repeatedly said economic stability maybe 5 times. I can see you are passionate about it. You see, when we talk, there are two stability. There is political stability and economic stability. If you talk of economic stability per se, my understanding of economics from when I last studied in entire school is that it really rotates around, say, the vis-a-vis exchange rate, dollar to Uganda shillings, has it been stable?
The macro and micro.
The inflation, how much money is chasing goods. The economic stability. Sometimes it is stable even when people are poor. Okay? So when you're talking of even ability for people to get the goods and services, in other words, they can meet their demand, their needs, the ability to buy for services, pay for services, and the ability to pay for the goods they want. Sometimes it's not even considered in the economic stability. But as it is, it's not been taken. For a long time the economy has been stable. And I think it will continue to be because the NRM has very good economic policies. But still, we are relating this economic stability to the
one question. Apparently, are we stable or we are having a gap?
We are stable. If you take the indicators that I'm talking about, dollar vis-a-vis Uganda, inflation, save for the current emerging issues of fuel. The emerging issues of fuel, which is to many extent is, not only extent, to all extent is external driven. The only thing now, there's a cry that why don't you intervene? Well, fine, it is Ukraine, it is this, there's that cry. And our president has come up with his own explanation as to why we don't need such interventions, and I think I agree with him. So that is as far as I could say about it. But my question was, I wanted to answer, why is it that the doctor from India and the nurse from Philippines is accepted and us not? But for a long time, Ugandan experts were also accepted. I have met Ugandan doctors in New York. I have met Ugandan doctors practicing in the best university in New York. But you see closely that these were older generation than the new generation. And some are actually supervisors of white doctors there. So of late is when this challenge came up. But the answer is, Of course, those market people, the market of US who want to consume the doctors and the nurses, consume in quotes and quotes, not eat them anyway, but to have them there is that they first of all check in your syllabus. What is your course content back home? What's your educational process back home? Okay? They check. Let me give you an example of, it is basically about quality assurance. Let me give you an example in consumption, real goods, quality. Fish, for example. Do you know that Uganda now, the only free good that accesses European market is fish from Lake Victoria? Why? Because of quality assurance. European Union, to the extent they even put money, to the extent that they want to monitor how this fish is caught. Is it caught by a net or by poisoning? So they want to monitor that the fish is caught by net, not poisoning, how it is transported in the boats, how it is put in the refrigerator, how it is handled, how it enters their supermarket. So to a big extent, even in labor, the quality assurance is paramount. That is why they accept this or not. Now, where we have now in situation like university, where students are demonstrating in Makerere because their friends were caught cheating, all these informations come up. So it affects our quality. Whereas we know now that students read pamphlets for purposes of passing. Somebody has been in Makerere for 3 years. If you ask any extracurriculum book he has read, a book outside the syllabus, zero. You have been to a university and you simply copied notes, you cram them or photocopy them, cram them like we used to do in Tayewa, rest in peace, our OB of entire Tayewa, who wrote economics. Yes, I remember. We would cram Tayewa and then we got A's. That is now the transplant at the university. Now the job market have a system of monitoring. And they say no. So that is why they will accept fish and leave this others. Yes. So the monitoring system is there. And that's why a doctor from India simply enters America, even if you graduated yesterday.
Our discussion, thank you so much. Our discussion continue to be deliberate, relating all this to economic stability. I'm not discrediting us that we've not had any maybe achievement made, especially in terms of the economy, but yet we must be honest and sincere that many citizens, a number of us, we are with that outcry. The pockets are in a solid state.
But the economy is stable.
We are coming for now. When the economy is stable, it means, as we talked about, the macro, the fiscal policy, where the foreign exchange. We are worried now if you find a dollar at $1, American dollar, versus a shilling against us, 3,800. We can't say that's good.
But as we like that for a long time,
I'm with you, sir. Now we go to export, because the good thing you reminded me of my economics too. Export trade, if you find that now we're at a rate of 17% of what we export vis-a-vis the import, which is around now 73, that around 73, right? Or 83, that also leaves us with a question, because that takes us back to what I am planning at productivity. Are we producing from the level? If it's not yet done, it's our aspiration in this discussion that we can have productivity, production of goods, production of services, production of quality labor, which you have agreed with us, which you've inspired us even, and the production of goods where we have factories, industries that are producing much more, competing with the world market. It is a matter that we are saying that we need to speak plainly at a policy level and at a community level to say, Ugandans, the reason why your dollar is lower because your production rate, what are you producing at a family level, how many industries do we have? It is an informal, direct education, does not need someone to first have a bachelor's of economics. What is your take?
Thank you.
And you give us your recommendation as we conclude.
For me, I will be far from Major when you say that we have achieved economic stability as a country, especially in relation to our topic of labor, productivity, and employment. I think if we are to look at this issue from the macro and micro, that is individual and general level, or policy level, or at the whole economy, in certain sectors, like when you talk about the currency, which is not a subject of our discussion today, if it is international or foreign exchange, perhaps there must be some stability in that we've been able to control inflation over a period of time, but it is not our subject for discussion today. But today I think we are looking at the issue of labor productivity and employment, and we are looking at the individual, the micro, this person.
To contribute to economic stability.
Yes, if we are looking at economic stability, if we are looking at the individual at this time with labor, if we are exporting our labor and you're already saying the quality of our labor is not good, which means we've not achieved economic stability in that sector of employment where we are able to train a doctor that is accepted everywhere in the world. Maybe if we reach that level, that is when we shall say we have achieved economic stability at the micro level. What is the quality of our people? If we have so many poor people, can we say we have achieved economic stability?
Point taken. Point taken. I think as noted. What's your final say? And as you want to tell us also the best of the best that Cavendish University has?
Yes, I wanted to say that finally, I still insist that we should all play our roles as stakeholders in education, right from the family, the government, the institutions and individuals. As institutions, we try, we design a curriculum and we keep revising the curriculum to some degree to respond to the needs of the labor market. And we recruit people who are supposed to train to facilitate so that we have graduates who have the right skills and they are able to go out there to the labor market. We even benchmark with other institutions. We may just say that they look at our curriculum, but when we're reviewing the curriculum, we look at the curriculum, what is taught elsewhere, what is taught in America, what is taught in India. At Cavendish University, Uganda, we even have an online program, Coursera. It is a free online course. So when we are designing a curriculum, we make sure that every topic we link students to a free online course that they can follow Australia, Harvard, elsewhere in the world, so that they are at par with what other people are studying out there. So I think that
we are doing it at Cavendish.
Yes, we are doing it at Cavendish. We try to ensure that our curriculum is holistic.
Just the aspect of quality assurance.
Yes, as an aspect of quality assurance. All universities have a department for quality assurance. Even National Council for Higher Education, to qualify or to accredit our courses, they have to ensure that there is some quality assurance. You benchmark with other institutions out there. But the issue is integrity in education should be emphasized, right from the lower levels to the higher level. When we talk about integrity, again, it is holistic. All stakeholders, the parents, the instructors in institutions of learning, the policy makers, they should have integrity in whatever we are doing. Because if, like Meja was saying, if policy makers are not able to do research on who can do for them quality work, and come up with good policies or recommendations, and instead they are looking for their relatives and friends to do for them research.
Integrity zero.
Integrity zero. So we need to get back to the drawing board of integrity in the education system.
Thank you. I appreciate you with all our heart, with all our hands, for having really done your best to make such a fruitful and great discussion, which I believe will be impactful to us in this generation to come. Meja, retired, it's a pleasure to welcome as you give us your final say.
One last comment. I will just answer on the issue of economic stability.
Yes.
I gave the indications of what ordinarily would amount to economic stability. The rate of dollar to Uganda shillings, has it been stable? The rate of inflation, the amount of money chasing goods, is it stable? Now, the ability of a person to buy, to me, is not. What we are discussing there is, I can give an example. My father had Dr. Akela an appeal. Did you know that you would be calling a Kele while in his mind is actually calling a Peo? So I think what you people are talking about economic stability, what you are thinking is not what you are saying. But for it is stability, it is there. What you are thinking is like my father thinking is calling a Kele while in his head is actually talking a Peo. Now, my recommendation is for us to have labor productivity and to have job opportunities, creation of employment, self or institutional, we need to go back to our education system.
That's right.
Whether from the mother or father or the former. And for that reason, I'm visiting Amanya Mission when it kicks off. So that we have critical thinking. I must have students who can explain what is life.
If you allow me to go with you, I'll go with you. Always give me some info. Because that's a good one. I appreciate for all this. It has been great as Smart 24 TV to have such great people to visit us, viewers. It's something we can never miss for every Saturday from 8:30 to 11, and we continue with even the course of the week, Monday evening from 7 to 10 minutes to 9. And that goes together also on Wednesday. It has been a pleasure to have you, Dr. Alice Wabure, and also Major Retired Awik Pora, and who also doubles as a counsel. And we appreciate for having honored our invitation and for making such contribution. It's adding on a brick to the economic growth of this country. And I was saying, and as I conclude, that yes, if at all we were stable in that kind of the angle we are talking about, the Ugandans also, they want it to be more stable, where prices are affordable for them to go and buy this, and which is the effect of how there's a competition between a shilling and a dollar, and also how our export trade is not balancing with the import trade, and looking at how we can have a productive labor is what we are aspiring for. Everyone must go to work as we continue to aspire to be the best on the globe. God bless you until I see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Smart 24, driving business.